I am 33 female, don't think I'm in the wrong here, but the way my neighbors reacted to me has me second-guessing myself. A few days ago I woke up at 8:30 a.m. and was about to let my large dogs out into my fenced backyard. At the last second I checked my phone and saw that my next-door neighbor Catherine had sent me a text at 1 a.m. telling me there would be contractors in my backyard power washing her house from 8 to 9 a.m. Here's my issue. I wouldn't mind letting them in my yard if that made the work easier. But Catherine never asked, she just told me it was happening, with 7 hours notice, in a text sent to me while I was asleep. It was just by chance that I saw it before I let the dogs outside, and had I not seen it, I could have let my dogs out into my yard with contractors already in the yard. One of my dogs is a very fearful dog, and while he has never bitten anyone, that is only because I work extremely hard to protect him from unwanted encounters with strangers, advocate for him and his personal space and special needs, and never let anyone get close to him without measures taken to make sure everyone is safe. He is a very loving and special dog, so this is just not a risk I'm willing to take because I want to be a responsible dog owner. My neighbors know this, and they know he's scared of pretty much any person that I don't carefully introduce him to. I also have very clear signage on all the gates. But they told the contractors they could go into my yard. Didn't ask permission, didn't wait for my answer. I felt this was an egregious overstep, and just kinda rude and entitled of them to not ask me permission, and just tell me it was happening like I had no say in the matter. I got mad and texted her back and told her that this could have a very serious safety issue and it is not okay, under any circumstances, for them to ever give anyone permission to enter my yard where my dogs could bite them. Unacceptable, and never again. Catherine's husband Jack then blew his top and told me that they didn't have any notice either. They heard from the contractor in the middle of the night and there was no time to notify me. I feel like that's not my problem, and that they should have waited to receive confirmed permission from me before telling the contractors it was okay. I really don't think I'm asking a lot here. I feel like this is an extremely reasonable request, dog issues or not. Then Jack told me that my behavior was unacceptable and that any harassment of the contractors would be dealt with, and that I was to immediately cease harassing Catherine. I never even spoke to the contractors. And I sent Catherine a total of 4 text messages that more or less said that this is a boundary they can't cross. This was unacceptable, and they are not to do it again. Jack sent me a few more nasty texts, and at this point I'm not really interested in being friendly anymore. But Jack still said that I was the one who was being unacceptable. Jack just yelled at me from his balcony to tell me that the painters will be coming back multiple times this week and he doesn't know when, so I am calling the company first thing tomorrow and explaining the situation to them. I am installing gate locks this afternoon. My boyfriend's mom makes these amazing cookie bars. She makes them for the holidays and family gatherings, and people always request that she brings them. I asked for the recipe once and she laughed and said no, that it was hers and she doesn't give it out to anyone. I dropped it and never asked again. I started baking a lot during the pandemic. It's been fun for me in my downtime. I decided with my free time to try to recreate the cookie bars my boyfriend's mom makes. I pulled up recipes that sounded similar from online blogs and started baking and tweaking. It took about 5 recipes and batches, but I finally nailed it down. Her secret recipe ended up essentially being a cookie bar known as a Carmelita. I then decided to make it my own and improve it to my tastes. I used higher quality chocolate, made sauce with local homemade caramels, used flaky sea salt on top, vanilla bean paste instead of extract, added a pinch of this fantastic organic cinnamon I had on hand. The results were over the top delicious. My boyfriend declared they are better than his mom's, and he finished off half a pan in 2 days. He was FaceTiming with his mom Saturday and eating one. She asked what it was and he said, "One of your caramel bars." Joe found a recipe online but made it even better. She lost it. She started yelling about how awful I was for making her cookies and how I had no right. He told her that she was overreacting and quickly ended the call. She started blowing up my phone with nasty texts about what an asshole I am. I explained to her that I found the recipe I used online where it was very public. I had actually tweaked that to make it more my own, and that I wasn't ever planning on bringing them to an event she said, so I did not see what the big deal was. She didn't care. She called me names and told me I was wrong for baking a recipe that I knew was similar to hers. She isn't speaking to me or her son. While I don't think my boyfriend should have made the comment about how I made it even better to his mom. Taking that out of the equation, she thinks I'm an asshole for even making them to begin with. I disagree, but from the texts from her and a couple other family members of hers, they think I crossed a line. I am a 32 years old female, and I was raised Mormon, but I'm not now, nor do I follow any other religion. My mom is still very much in the cult. As such, she has the typical Mormon mindset regarding gender roles and all that bullshit. Granted, I still think she'd be this way without her religion, though maybe not as bad. We get along splendidly, except when the topic of her religion comes up, which doesn't often. She's visiting right now. I don't see her in person much, but she came down for my birthday. It's also important to note that I have 2 sons. My 5-year-old has a mohawk. My 3-year-old has shaggy, shoulder-length hair. He's never had a haircut for a multitude of reasons, none of which would even be asked if he were a girl. Not long after she got here, she started going in on his hair. This is not the first time she's given her opinion on it. Why don't I cut it? Don't I want to prevent him from being bullied? Or from people thinking he's a girl? Because he hasn't asked and I want it to be his choice. Because he acts like I'm murdering him when I brush his teeth and hair. Because he also flails around like he's having an exorcism, so imagine that with a pair of scissors. Because if someone sees long hair and assumes girl, that's on them, and a simple, he's a boy, corrects it. But mostly it's because I don't want to. She got pissed and said what she really thought, which was, well, I just don't like long hair on boys. Clearly. Yet she has no problem with my other son's mohawk. Guess that's boyish enough for her. And she said it in front of both my sons, which pissed me off. I said the first thing which came to my head, which was, if you have a problem with long hair on boys, I suggest you take it up with your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You can start by asking him to get a haircut. Call John the barber. Bruh. If looks could kill, I'd be in outer darkness right now. She steeped in her anger for a while but didn't say anything else. She hasn't changed her opinion, nor will she. But I don't think she wants to get roasted again either, so she won't bring it up anymore. I feel like we're both assholes. As much as I hate her religion, that was also a low blow, and I have a tendency to speak first, regret later. Though I don't necessarily regret my words, I do regret how they made her feel. She is my mom after all. University is starting back soon, so many of my friends started moving back to town. I am 17 female, live in a house with 5 friends. I wasn't born in the UK but moved here with my parents when I was 17. We come from another European country, so I speak my native language, English, which is far from perfect. I've been learning Spanish and English since I was little, and my Spanish is better than my English. I don't have an obvious accent in English, people just assume that I am Canadian. We had a small party on Saturday and one friend brought his new girlfriend, Jess. Jess 20, and she's the reason why I am posting here. Jess made sure to let everyone know that she's a polyglot and speaks multiple languages. I was obviously impressed. I study modern languages, meaning that I'm learning Italian and German on top of Spanish. And obviously I asked what languages she speaks: Spanish, Japanese, Arabic, my native language, German, Korean, and French. I told her how impressed I was and carried on with my evening. I had a short phone call with my mom, whom I obviously speak to in my native tongue, and I went out of the house to talk to her. Jess was out in the garden and heard my conversation, and she corrected me on my pronunciation. I told her that she was in the wrong, and she insisted that she knows better. I didn't fancy getting into any arguments, so I ignored her and went back inside saying, whatever. Later, I bumped my head and swore loudly in Spanish. I tend to code switch a lot when drunk, and she corrected my pronunciation. Which was funny because it was her who was incorrect. I ignored her again. A while later I wanted my friend, who is from Spain, to hand me something, but I forgot how it's called in English. So I said, hand me Spanish word, please, knowing my friend would understand. Jess decided to correct me again, using completely incorrect word. My friend and I looked at each other, and me being drunk, I lost any self-control I had. I spoke to Jess in Spanish asking her what the hell she thinks she's doing. And she looked at me telling me that my Spanish was so wrong that she didn't understand a word. It wasn't but okay. So I told her the same thing in my native tongue. To which she replied with the same thing. I laughed at her and told her it's my native language and she really shouldn't lie about being a polyglot and correcting people when she doesn't actually speak those languages. She was fuming. She tried to grab her boyfriend's hand and leave with him, but he was too drunk to care and just said, "Told you to stop lying." I don't know how she got my number, but she called me this morning screaming what an asshole I am to humiliate her like that, and if she knew I spoke the language, she wouldn't have corrected me. I do feel bad now. I realize how humiliating this must have been for her, but on the other hand, she shouldn't have been lying.